You're listening to Overdoing It, the Rhode Island Library Podcast. Hi, this is Dave Bartos from Cranston Public Library and the Overdoing It team. We're on break for August and taking this opportunity to share some encore episodes with you. Today we are revisiting episode 6 from the 13th of August, 2024. In it, host Taylor is joined by Fallon Masterson, producer and co-founder of Stranger Stories PVD, and Lauren LaBelle, writer and Stranger Stories participant, to talk about this free monthly Lit Night event taking place in Providence. Take it from me, these shows are a blast. Be sure to check out their next show, which will be in September, at their new venue, the Culinary Hub of Providence. For more information, go to strangerstoriespvd.com. I hope you enjoy this encore presentation. Overdoing It will be back with new episodes on September 9th.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Overdoing It, where our team of library workers dish about their latest reads, views, and passions alongside fascinating conversations with local luminaries. I'm your host, Taylor, graphic novel enthusiast, intellectual freedom fighter with a passion for serving youth, and my pronouns are she, her. Let's dive in and discover who our guests are today.
I'm Fallon Masterson. I am the producer and co-founder of Stranger Stories PVD, a local storytelling night here in Rhode Island, and I use she, her pronouns.
Hi there, I'm Lauren LaBelle. I'm a local copywriter, and I'm a frequent guest at Stranger Stories, and my pronouns are she, her.
All right, thank you both for joining me today. A little bit later in the show, we will talk more about Stranger Stories and how people can see it and how people can maybe be part of it if that's something that sounds interesting to them. But before we get into all that, let's start off as we always do with, what have you been reading?
We were worried you were going to ask this question. No, we're excited. We're excited.
I've been working my way through Prescription for Pain, which is by local journalist and writer Phil Isle. Lauren and I actually went to see Phil during one of his book talks for the book, and I've been following this project for a really long time. I don't read as much true crime as I used to. I really love creative nonfiction. I go in and out of phases of true crime depending how much I can emotionally and mentally handle at any given time. But what I'm enjoying most about that book is really the emphasis on the victims in the story, which is about opioid epidemic in Ohio and a doctor who massively overprescribed. Phil could describe it much better than I can. And I like that so much of it isn't about the case and it's about the people. Other than that, I'm working my way through the 2023 Best American Essays, which I usually like to try to go through every year at my own pace.
And I am reading right now, someone recommended this book called The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. And so I picked it up. I don't usually read fantasy at all, but it's made me like a local celebrity. Every time I walk around with this book, someone will come up to me and be like, oh my God, it's my favorite book ever. And like, I've had so many conversations with so many strangers about it. And it's very long. It's just like a thick, one. But I actually found myself really slowing down at the very end because I don't want it to be over. I'm very much like just being like, okay, that's it. Just a paragraph now. And then I'll just read it tomorrow again. So I'm really trying to like savor every last minute of it. Although there is a second book and there is a rumor that there's a third book coming, but I don't know. I just really am enjoying myself and my little romp with this one. And then also, like, I'm friends with local authors. It's really exciting. My friend Brendan Paris just did White Bishop just came out, short stories with another writer. I'm really, please forgive me. I don't remember his name at this moment. Sorry. And my best friend since we were 5 is also a writer, which is really strange. We grew up together in the woods, and so we had a lot of time to storytell with our Barbies. And her new book is coming out in September on Amazon. It's called Celine Shade, Resurrectionist. And it's one of my, I'm just so excited because we grew up reading all these kinds of urban fantasy books and like trilogies, and she's now writing one, and I just cannot wait to get my hands on it and read it. So those are my plugs, but they're going to be really good. So get in on those.
Fantastic. It's funny you were saying about like savoring a book when you don't want it to end, because I frequently find after I finish a really good book, like I'll still be thinking about it, and I like have to keep reminding myself that like I finished the book. Like I'll be thinking about it during the day, like, oh, I can't wait to go home and read that, and then it's like, wait, no, you finished it. It's done.
Well, it's funny because I really, really want to start it's a business, but no one's ever going to pay for this, but like a helpline to call in after you finish a book and be like, somebody please talk about Anna Karenina with me, because I keep bringing it up in conversations and no one wants to talk about Anna Karenina. I'm like, you know what this reminds me of? And they're like, stop again.
I admire the willpower to like savor a book. I mean, first of all, I go to sleep at like 9 o'clock every day, unless I'm reading something that I can't stop. I don't know. It's like social plans, commitments to friends and loved ones, like they cannot keep me awake, but reading will keep me awake. And, Lauren, you were talking about like reading outside genres you normally read in. I got really sucked into Fourth Wing at the end of last year. And
really?
My husband called it the most animated he's seen me speak in 2 years. Like when I was describing the sexy dragon book to him.
You just made me want to read that. Woo. That's
I also had a Fourth Wing moment. I would say early this year, and then Lauren, you're talking about needing someone to like talk to the books about, because I am on a bookish podcast. It turned into me bringing it up a lot in the podcast, and I was like, we need to talk about other books. I'm not going to bring up Fourth Wing again. But yeah, it was a real journey. It actually like took a little bit for me to get into it, but once I got into it, I was like, oh my God. Like I would be like saying things out loud while reading. My partner would just be like hearing me make noises from the other room, where I'd be like, or like, and then he's like, what is happening in here? And then I'm just like, dragon shenanigans. That's what's happening in here.
I saw it on someone's bookshelf this weekend and had to restrain myself from what I'm about to do to this podcast, which is just start talking about Fourth Wing. It's like I have to be separated from it.
What helped me is I found some podcasts. I think it was just called the Fantasy Fangirl podcast. They had a whole episode where they were talking about theories after having read Iron Flame. And listening to that like helped me. I don't know. In a parasocial way, it gave me a way to like listen to other people and think about my theories and feel like I wasn't alone in just being like, about this book.
It's nice to find your people though, right? I'm still doing it with like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I've done it like 4 times this weekend, and whenever I mention it, people are like, oh yeah, and they come in with theirs, so those things are evergreen.
But Fourth Wing kind of like kicking off a real like desire to read fantasy. I've always been a fantasy fan, but like a desire to go back to it in a sense. I have been reading The Fallbacks Bound for Ruin by J. Lee Johnson.
Is it YA or is it adult, or one of those like who even knows there's kind of no line anymore?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not super far into it, but so far I haven't read anything that would make me feel like it wasn't YA. It does kind of have a YA vibe. And it's Dungeons and Dragons, like,
lore,
for lack of a better word, branded content, like sanctioned content. Everyone got the go ahead to use all the trademarked words. Yeah. And so when I saw Dungeons and Dragons on the cover, I had to stop and look at it. And so far I'm enjoying it. It does very much feel like a D&D campaign. Very different vibe than Fourth Wing, but just in the fantasy realm, and is scratching that D&D itch when I can't always be playing with my friends because we're all adults with lives and jobs and stuff. Yeah, darn. I know. So besides reading, have either of you been watching anything interesting lately?
I just revisit a lot of shows over and over again because I just sometimes life gets really hard. And sometimes there's just like these funny characters who are just waiting for you, you know? So rewatching Never Have I Ever is always such a fun one to kind of just watch and rewatch forever because she's just such an awkward, just like misanthrope. Like it's the same thing with, you know, like I really feel she's a really bad behaved teenager. And I really feel that to my core, as you will hear a lot in my Stranger Stories stories. But right now, I'm actually really excited to watch the second season of We Are Lady Parts. It just came out on Peacock. I don't know if you've heard about it. Oh my God, stop what you're doing and go home and watch it. It's a group of Muslim girls and they start a punk rock band. And it's really, really fun. And it's just like, it's so girl power and so funny and awkward, but also really full of heart. It's just really, really, really nice one. I'm thrilled. I can't believe they brought it back for a second season. You know, one of those things where you're like, I liked it so much, but I can't imagine it will survive. But it did, and it's back. So I'm so excited to watch the second season. And when I'm sad on a Sunday morning or like just chilling and everyone, whatever, I love the show Somebody Feed Phil on Netflix. It just makes me feel so good. It's a travel show about eating and going to different cities. I know that's not a brand new format by any means, but he brings such personality and like goofiness and just love to the whole thing that really makes you feel really whole. It's just produced super well. It's the guy that did sorry, what is his last name? Phil Rosenthal. And he's the showrunner of Everybody Loves Raymond, which was also just kind of that feeling. You know, it's a really nice just people show for people. I don't know. I love it. And every time I go to a new city that he's been to, I literally do all the restaurants that he's mentioned, and I have never, ever been upset that I've done it. So those are my shows right now. Anyway, go ahead, Fallon.
Well, by the time this airs, who knows like how many people will be dead on House of the Dragon season 2. But I am
Fair.
And can we talk about future state? Am I breaking the fourth wall now? At this point in time, we have one death, and I can only imagine that this death is going to be the precipice for so many other deaths. And
I haven't watched it yet. I'm probably going to watch it tonight.
Man, sorry. It's House of the Dragon, right? You know someone's going to die.
I don't know who died. Yeah, so
yeah, no. You don't know. Oh my gosh. See, this is what, all right. So I won't talk about scripted TV then, because just kind of like step in landmines there. I will tell you the TV that I am most passionate about, which is I am a humongous professional wrestling fan. And the amount of hours I spend per week watching Raw or SmackDown or thinking about Raw or thinking about SmackDown or listening to podcasts about wrestling, like really becomes a huge part of my media consumption. The other nerdy TV thing that I'm massively obsessed with is Survivor. So when Survivor is in season, that's also something that I'm like consuming. You know, we're talking about going to like the online communities just to like live in. I'm on Survivor subreddits. I'm in podcast. It's crazy. I think I just like these really immersive shows where it's like about connecting with people. You know, it's like the water cooler shows, right? You know, otherwise there's just way too much content out there. It's hard to like find someone who's going to connect with you. I'm like, did you really like Platonic on Apple TV? Because I really liked Platonic. And then you have to start, what channels do you subscribe to? Oh, I'm on Peacock. I'm not on Peacock, you know, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find this with the show a lot where people will be like, I'm watching this show. It's on this service. And I'm like, all right, well, unless I decide to go for a free trial of it at some point, probably not going to watch that one.
Yeah, it's really hard too, because when you drop one, then you all of a sudden can't watch it anymore. Like I'm a huge RuPaul's Drag Race fan, but it's on Paramount and I don't subscribe to it anymore. So I'm like, oh God, RuPaul, I miss you so much. I need your spirit in my life.
But then parts of it are in World of Wonder, so it's like you then have to have 2 different subscriptions to get all of the Drag Race content you need.
And I need all of it, okay? I have a teenager, I have to get her up to speed on what's going on. Like, I need it all.
Oh, come over, Lauren. I've got them all.
All right. You're going to regret it. What are you watching, Taylor?
Yeah, my plan was probably to go home and watch the House of the Dragon tonight, because it was only somewhat recently that I realized that, like, this Sunday was the new season. I knew it was soon. This happens to me all the time. Like, I have it in my brain as, like, this show coming out soon, ? And then I never know exactly when it's going to come out. But a patron said it the other day, and so I was like, oh, okay, good. but my partner is not into. I think he would be into it, but it's just one of those things that he has decided that he's not into it.
No.
It's being stubborn.
Yeah, because he's a fantasy person, and this isn't one of those things that would be ruined by the book because neither of us have read the books. Because he frequently reads the book, and then they make a show, and then he's like, I hated that. It was nothing like the books. Or they'll take a turn. The Expanse took a turn, and he was like, I cannot stand with this choice that they've made. If you want to finish The Expanse, you'll have to watch the last season by yourself. No joke, a thing that happened to me.
He has integrity. He's a man of integrity.
But I was like, I think you'd like, because it's fantasy and it's, like intricate storylines. And, but yeah, it's just one of those things that he's like, nah, Game of Thrones related stuff, not for me. So I was like, okay. But then that means that I need to find time to watch it by myself.
Yeah.
But I because of the whole thing of trying not to have scripted network television ruined for me, I'm really going to try to make an effort to watch it tonight.
You just have to stay off of everything until then.
A way I found to watch shows that no one else would watch with me is to watch them while I'm working out. So that, like, I just have my thing on. And like, actually, that's how I watch RuPaul's Drag Race by myself. But I was, working out, and it gets me to make sure I work out because I really want to find out what happens. And then it's also like no one else is going to sit there and watch these things with me. But then it ends up you're working out and you're laughing really hard by yourself, and everyone's looking at you like a crazy person. Anyway, it's worth it.
Well, we're watching The Acolyte because my partner's also a big Star Wars fan. And I mean, so far I'm meh about it, but they've only had 3 episodes. So I feel like I got to give it a little bit more than that.
Yeah. Every show that I tell people to watch, I'm like, just maybe even skip the first season or, start on episode 4 and you'll love it.
I know, it becomes a hard bargain, though, then when there's so much other stuff you want to watch and you start doing the math. You're like, I've already given you 3 hours. I could have been rewatching, Buffy.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's how I feel about books too, though. Like, I cannot put a book down if it's bad. I can't. I have to see the whole thing through. I will not give up. And even though it's like, and that's what happens. Someone had mentioned reading slumps before, and like that's what will happen. I'll just kind of be so bored with something that I'm reading, and then I'll just kind of stop reading for a while, and then it gets really sad. And then luckily, my mother gives us books every year at Christmas, and she's got impeccable taste, and so that will always take me right out of the reading slump again. I'm like, thank God.
See, no, I'm like, life's too short to stick with a book that you're not vibing with. I will DNF like this. I have a book that I read 1 chapter of today.
I know, I get stressed out if I'm not liking a book, but I kind of haven't given up hope on it yet, but there's other stuff I really want to read, and I start thinking like, oh, I don't want to go into something else because then I know I'll never get back to this, and maybe if I stick with this, then I'll really enjoy it. Because I know I normally, except for the case of what I talked about up front, where if I'm like interjecting with short stories or essays or something, I'm definitely like a 1 book at a time type of gal. I'm not really like going back and forth between different plots. Book monogamous.
Yeah, it's hard. For me, though, actually, I have always been a 1 book person, but recently I'm doing 1 book on my audiobook and then 1 book, a physical book. But that's like a really hard code switch, right? Like you're trying to figure out where you are, and you're like, who is this character and why did they save wait a second, that's totally not a thing. I don't know.
All right, so I want us to have enough time to talk about Stranger Stories PVD. So let's start at the beginning. What is Stranger Stories?
The logline for Stranger Stories is it is a live lit night of storytelling. And what that actually means is we are a show that puts out calls for submissions for people to submit their own true stories. We then do a curation and submission prep. We go through the submissions, select stories from local writers or non-writers or anyone, honestly, who felt compelled enough about the theme to share. And we put together a night of storytelling where people come together and share their true stories on the given theme. The even simpler way of describing it is it's sort of like The Moth, but for writers. So people are telling their stories on a theme, but they're doing it, we're an on-book show, so it's not extemporaneous storytelling. Everyone is reading from their paper. The show started in 2018 in May. I was inspired by time spent living in Chicago, which has a really vibrant, live lit community. And at the time I was living there, you could really see a night like this almost any night of the week. You could go to a bar or a tattoo shop or a sandwich shop or whoever was willing to give up their space for people to come in and read their personal essays. And when I moved back to Rhode Island, which is where I grew up, I missed having a place to perform and more missed hearing other people's stories and having that sort of community here. Another way to kind of think about it is a lot of the stories that I personally like or get drawn to are sort of like stand up, but with no obligation to be funny. And it gives people who normally wouldn't have this platform to share their stories an opportunity to come and tell them, to honestly, like I say it still humbly, like a pretty good sized audience, for the fact that these are not known authors. No, this is a free show at 6:00 on a Wednesday night. And we're at this point now where I don't even want to say it because I'll jinx it. I never believed that the show is going to stay successful. I think each show is going to fail and only have 10 people, but that hasn't been the case. And usually over 100 people will come out to these and just hear people's stories. And, it's challenging, of course, to book and to go through this submission process. There's so much more I could say about that. But every time a show happens, I am so proud of everyone and leave just so in awe of the talent that is just sitting in people, So that's the flavor of the night. It's a night where people come together to tell stories from their lives.
Yeah, and I'll add to that what you were talking about earlier, Fallon, about how, you get people and you have no idea what kind of talent is sitting in them. And I think my favorite part about that personally is to hear it coming from their own into their own voice. Because I read, there's parts Fallon has allowed me to read submissions before, and I would read them and I'd be like, I don't know. It's okay. I mean, I don't really connect with this story that much. And then it gets up on stage because she believes in it, and it is phenomenal. And it's my favorite story I've ever heard. And that happens, I mean, I really don't have it. If you look at the paper and you read the words, you're like, okay, because you're putting your own mood and your own mindset on it and your own perspective. And then someone comes in and they hit a word correctly, or hit, or they're excited, and you can really feel the energy that they have when they're writing it and telling a true story that happened in their lives. And that's, already connects to you. But you're there with them because they're painting the picture so well. And it's just an amazing thing to hear it in authors' own voices. And I love reading, and I've never wanted that for. Actually, that's not true, because I love hearing David Sedaris do his stuff, right? But that's what it feels like. You're actually hearing their stories and their voices, and it just illuminates so much more that you don't expect.
Yeah, it's super cool when that happens. So like Lauren said, she's gracious enough to help me through submission process when I get stumped, because it's really challenging to go through. I feel connected usually immediately to all of them to some extent. Everyone is saying something personal, and I don't mean personal, everyone's sharing this huge burden, or even when it's just a funny light story, everyone is giving you some part of their life. So I take it really seriously about being thoughtful about who to take in and not. And I try to vary it by all different criteria. But there was recently a performer we had who I didn't take the story for a theme we had earlier in the year. I just thought at the time that there was some other stories I felt more connected to. The performer resubmitted the story for a theme that also worked. And I thought, what, let's rock it. Man, she killed that story. Lauren, I know you know the one I'm talking about. And that's the magic of it. On the first read, I wasn't getting it. But as soon as that performer took ownership over their story and sold it, she had the whole room in the palm of her hand. And I was so psyched that happened. And, And I think too, that's even then the other side of it. You're like, they all have the potential like to connect with someone, if it hits you on the certain day, maybe you're like, I don't know. And then it hits you on another day. The story is just, people are writing across full spectrums of audiences and life experiences. We have people from teenagers up and through their 80s who will perform at the show. So you're just seeing things through so many different eyes.
Yep, totally. I love it. It's great. It's such a great experience to be part of, actually.
So on that note, Lauren, can you talk a little bit about how you got involved with Stranger Stories and how you ended up performing?
Yeah, I was almost a cautionary tale, actually. No, I don't actually always, let's see, how do I put this well? I'm an idea person. I don't always follow through with like all the things that I would like to do in this world. I get really excited about everything and then I just kind of like let things fall off. So when I first heard about Stranger Stories, I was like, this is the coolest thing. And I became a little bit of a fangirl and I was like following it and I was so excited. And I was like, there's no way anyone would want to hear me or my writing. Like there's just no, it would be, why? Who am I? Like what? I have no stories to tell. Which is obviously not the case because I've read many times and I have lots of stories to tell and I was just being kind of a pain about it to myself. But then luck would have it that I actually overheard Fallon talking to our friend about Stranger Stories like out in the world. And I was like, wait a second. Is that you? And I was just so thrilled. And she was, Fallon is one of these people that inspires just by example. And so it's true. You are incredible. So she was just like, just do it. Like, what's your problem? Just go ahead. And I'm like, I'm not cool enough at all. Like, I really just don't have a lot of confidence. And then I did my first one and I loved it so much. I really, the first time I got up there, Fallon I was so nervous. I was just horrified. I was shaking, and it was a story about cranberry harvest and like how I was a migrant farmer for like 4 months, and I was like, it was a funny take and on it, whatever. And Fallon put me right after a woman who had just had told a very harrowing story where I was crying my eyes out, like I was so upset. And then she's like, "And our next reader, Lauren LaBelle," and I got on stage, and I was just like wrung out, like very emotionally upset. But then I had to serve my own, like, and I was like, all right, well, I'm not gonna just fall out of this light. Like this is my time on the stage. So I had to, and also I have a thing about empathy, and I had to bring the room back up. That was and exactly Fallon's whole plan. Anyway, so she's the master, she's the puppeteer.
I know, it's like an unfair burden to put on you, but it's like it has to have, you can't leave people down there for too long,
Yeah.
And to be honest, I used to do it more, but I have sort of backed away from booking a lot of heavier stories because just my thoughts now on like what the purpose of the night is and what people can handle like while they're out sitting, and sometimes the room just can't recover. There's probably a whole different show format, right, where you could curate these like tough talks, right? Instead of TED Talks, we have tough talks, and then we have conversations about it and we unpack it, and we can do proper content warnings and set the stage for the room and all that. But the time limit I have for the show and just the way I have it structured, I don't have the time, or at this point in my life, I don't really have the expertise to help people navigate what some of those heavier stories can unpack. So I really do try to keep it a little bit lighter now, or if there's going to be one that's, has darker material, it has to either be followed up by someone like Lauren, or I have to do it right before a break so I can try to bring people back together again. And, you don't want to leave anyone quietly processing, or that's not the intent,
Yeah.
But it is hard because sometimes the prompts bring up those sorts of memories and topics for people. And I think in my own workshopping life and writing advice, I try to heed myself to write from the scar, not write from the wound. And when I'm reading stories, that's definitely in my mind of like, oh, is this more of like a first draft where this person is getting this out, but like it might not be ready to be shared on a stage with a microphone just yet, even though it has total merit in written work in its own way.
I think you also, because you share as well, Fallon, because you read, it really opens it up so that we have a lot more confidence as readers, as sharers, to kind of meet you where you are a lot of times too, because you're really vulnerable up there. You'll tell stories that surprise me. You know what I mean? And I've known you now for a while, and I'm still like, or like laughing really hard or whatever, just really connecting there. And I think that because you do it and you are brave enough to get up, it's really encouraging for everyone else to do the same. So it's really nice.
Thanks. I think that, it's funny in some ways. There's a lot of community building reasons of why I do the show and to bring, kind of writers together. But there is also totally that selfish component of it too, right? As a writer, where I need my own accountability structure, and the show gives me that structure, and that show gives me prompts and keeps me writing and keeps me inspired and is healthy for my own practice. So I do always try to make a point to perform at a show and think about, like, I mean, at its most selfish, I think, what's a theme I really want to write to? We're like, oh, I've got a good story in my back pocket for this theme. Like, that's going to be what the theme is this month.
No, but you've kept me writing, and even when I don't submit, I always have a story. Like, and that's really great. Like, and I can put it for next time or whatever, and but it's nice to be writing. And as a writer, like, I do it professionally, and so when it's time to write my own stuff, I don't always want to. It's just like, well, I mean, it's like sitting, it just feels very, I don't know, self-serving sometimes when you have like kids to feed and a dinner to make and friends that have a birthday party, to actually sit down in front of your computer and take the time to write, especially autobiographical stuff. And this last time I wrote was about my family, and it's a story that I know they didn't want me to tell, but at the same time, it was a story, it was my story too, so I did tell them, and they were upset, by the way, Fallon. No.
Oh, no.
They were mad.
Oh, no.
They were mad. But I read it to them, and afterwards they were like, you're very skilled. Good job. But next time, no. But that's the thing. I think it's also a really good thing that Fallon asked the audience to not record, and I think that's really special because it creates a safe space within the room, and we all feel like we can say whatever we need to say. I mean, obviously, that we've written. But that it's not going to be following us forever, and it's not going to be something that we can ever take back, or, I think that's a really nice thing too. It creates a safety, but it's still performative. I don't know. It's a really strange mix.
I know sometimes like Lauren mentioned, we don't record the show or put it out online or through any sort of podcast content. It really is just a one night only live experience, which I know sometimes can be a bit frustrating for performers who have people out of town that they want to share with, or honestly, even people like, just in network who just don't like to go out, but they want the show. And I can't do it. I think that the energy of the room is really cool. I did one virtual show during the pandemic and felt a little weird about it afterwards. And I don't know, like Lauren said, if it is because I do my own, coming at it from a performer, right? Not even just as a producer. As a producer, it was fine. But as a performer, it felt so soulless to me. I just felt like, oh, I just put this piece of myself out here. And then I just shut my computer and like went into the kitchen.
Yeah.
There was no, I don't know. It felt funny to me. And, because of that, I just don't record the shows. And performers can totally like have obviously someone record on their phone and then they can do whatever they want with it. But we don't do like so people can individually choose to do what they want, but we keep the show live only, which maybe is like a terrible marketing and growth plan that you just have to be there.
No, I think it's actually fantastic because you have to be there. That's the thing. Like, you're creating an urgency. I mean, speaking of marketing, that's whatever. But that's the thing. Like, the next one is a couple days after my birthday, and I might be out of town, and I'm like really stressed out about it. I'm like, oh my God, I have to get back for Stranger Stories because what am I gonna miss? And there's all kinds of things that I'm not gonna hear, and that's that night and that moment. And having those conversations and being able to catch someone and be like, oh my gosh, the last time we did it, I saw some girl I used to be on a volleyball team get up and tell one of the most beautiful stories. And I would never have known that about her. ever. And I haven't talked to her since volleyball. And so it's like amazing to have these connections and these moments. I guess it's really inspiring as a writer to just be able to be there and in the moment of a story. And you're all there for the same exact reason, which is to like just geek out about stories. It's really nice.
And it's Rhode Island, so it makes it even easier to feel personally connected from a story. We had a show theme, I think it was probably the theme Neighbors, if I had to guess, where someone was telling a story about, a kooky neighbor they had, and then someone in the audience popped up and realized that this was their neighbor and they lived a street over because they had the same experiences with that neighbor.
I thought you were gonna say like, that's
It was
me.
Ben.
I'm that neighbor. Let me see. Well, I was telling a story about my family once, and someone in the audience came up to me after the show and told me that they live in my grandfather's house. Like all,
Yeah.
that's it's like all super Rhode Island stuff happens. Like Lauren said, just happened to be on the show with her volleyball connection.
I was telling a story once about kissing the wrong boy on accident. It's a long story. We'll, whatever. But a guy came up to me at the end. He goes, "I know exactly what you were talking about." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't mention names. Yikes. That's awkward."
Yeah, I think that would be my fear, especially since like I think like some of the people I went to college with and stuff are like-minded people who are into similar things. So like going to something like this would totally be their vibe. So I think like that would be my fear, like talking about some guy that I dated before and then it'd be like, they're here. Because that's Rhode Island. The degree of separation is 0.
It's so true. I used to stress about that a lot more than I do now. And now I think I'm a little bit more like devil may care with it, where I'm just like, let them come to the show. We can talk about it. Like, I just, what's really like the worst that could happen. And just thinking about it like that has been very healing for me to, encourage me to put things out there.
Yeah. And you don't choose like, when you curate the stories, it's never like no one's like spiteful or no one's everyone's pretty even-handed and everyone is fairly represented, I would say. So there's not too crazy.
No slam pieces for sure.
No slam pieces at all. None.
No diss tracks at Stranger Stories.
It's funny. Like I was just looking at to refresh my mind before the show. I was like looking at themes that we've had in the past. It's like a lot of them could lead to diss tracks. It's like we've had standoff, family feud, one way or another, heroes, villains. Like there's more, but these are just the ones that seem like
Rivals is the next one.
Oh yeah, the next one is Rivals. Yeah.
For us here in the present, when you listen to this, Rivals would have already happened.
Yes. The actual next show, as you're listening, will be September 4th at Askew. It'll be Wednesday, September 4th. The show is at 6, doors at 6:30, and we'll be announcing the theme for that show. We should have just announced it by then. And beginning in September, we'll be putting out submission calls and open calls for the November show. So there's still plenty of opportunity to engage with the show in the future.
I love that though. I mean, if it's not your month, if this theme doesn't feel right, there's always the next time. You follow Stranger Stories on Instagram and things like that, and just being like keeping your ear to the ground, being like, what feels right for me and my stories.
That's very Lauren. We're talking about the sense of urgency, and maybe that is like the only like crass marketing part that I do have in me, where I don't pre-announce the themes. Like I know some shows will say these are our themes for the year, but I don't want to do that because I'm so afraid people will squat on submissions. Because I think sometimes for things like this, right, there's a lot of temptation to procrastinate.
Oh yeah.
So I'm afraid if I give people the full list of themes, they're gonna sit on it and not seize the day, which would also be a good theme, by the way. So I release them every other month. I release what the theme is going to be for the next show.
Well, it's fun too because you can learn about it at the show. So you've just heard all of these people reading and you're getting so inspired. And then you hear the next one and your brain is like, oh my God, how does this relate to me? What can I do too? Like so many people that I've brought that have come to watch me have come up to me afterward and been like, I really want to write for this and get really excited about it. And I think that's just, I don't know, I love it so much. It's just great. And I'm always, please do not take this the wrong way, Fallon, at all. I am always so surprised how many people come out to these things. Like, it's a Wednesday night and you're like, you guys want to hear some live lit night? And
At 6:30.
yeah, like outside of our circles, I mean, how cool does that sound? Probably not that cool, but like it is such a cool event and it's become so huge. Like when I first was there, there was like, it was me and like 10 people in a bookstore, you know, and then now it's like, you cannot, I'm not saying you can't find a seat, but come early to find a seat.
I hate even talking about that because honestly, I'm never surprised by the quality of the stories. I in some ways, I take that almost for granted now that there's just so many wonderful people here, but I'm always like surprised, like, y'all came out for that. It makes me feel so, it's super humbling. The show started at Ada Books, actually, like in their little back room. And I think there's 20 people at that show, which I thought was a massive success. And then we moved to Riff Raff, and that was too small. And then we moved to Stillwater Books, and then Artists Exchange and 20 Stories. And finally, we had to just be in a more traditional venue because we were running out of chairs, which is the coolest problem. Now that I've said it, it will never happen again.
Oh, stop. It's happening. If I ever do that, I always bring a posse.
So, Lauren, you already mentioned that Stranger Stories has an Instagram, but how can people find out more and stay in touch with Stranger Stories to find out when the next shows are, when the next calls for submissions are, and all of that jazz?
Stranger Stories PVD.com has a mailing list that you can sign up for, and that will ensure that you do not fall prey to the algorithm. We always put out our open submission calls through our mailing list. You can find that on strangerstoriespvd.com/about on the about page. And then we have Facebook and Instagram as well, both handles at Stranger Stories PVD. But the mailing list is, of course, like the best way to make sure that you're not getting locked out of the feed because I didn't post like enough cat content or something.
I like to hear when places have a mailing list because I've kind of this year decided to like go off of social media. And so sometimes it's hard to find out about cool things that are going on because they're all like, well, look at our Instagram and you can find out about all our cool events. And I'm like, but I'm trying to not get stuck in a loop of temporary dopamine and have some long lasting joy in my life.
This is the problem. I was a wrestling fan. I'm in wrestling TikTok, wrestling reels, all this. It's crazy.
So we wrap up the show with a segment we call The Last Chapter, where we talk about a library or bookish related question. And I last minute am going to change the question on you because of what I talked about earlier with my partner hating adaptations, which is basically what's your feelings about adaptations of books into TV and movies?
I don't think I've ever been satisfied.
A true book person.
Yeah, for real. I'm okay with it because it brings in more audience and I can talk about the subject matter and it brings more attention to the author, which I think is really cool. But man, it's never done it justice, I would have to say. Not once ever. Although I haven't seen the new Dunes, either of them. So I've heard those are wonderful.
They're very good.
Okay.
That's the one adaptation he likes.
All right.
We just watched Dune Part 2 again last night.
I like the movie election better than I like the book election, although I like the book as well. I just feel like they're kind of different.
No, and then I was thinking about it. I'm like, wasn't Legally Blonde actually a book before it was a movie? But I loved the movie so much, I never read the book. So maybe I'm just talking about books that I've personally read, because I think there's probably adaptations that I love and have no idea there's a book behind them, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right? And you're just, that was a book? Huh.
Oh, okay. Won't be reading that because I already got what I needed from it.
I feel like if I read the book first and then go to the movie, then I feel much more faithful to the book. But if it's something like where I love the movie and then I go back to the book, then I can enjoy them both of like their own merit. And I feel like really for horror stuff, like Rosemary's Baby was something where I loved the movie and didn't read the book until, many years later. And like The Shining, I think both are good in different ways.
Totally different ways.
Totally different ways, right? But then there's something like Kindred, where I was like, how are they going to make a TV show out of this? I love the book. Then I saw the TV show. I was like, kind of a mess,
Or Queen of the Damned is like the most famous example of a great horror book that just went so wrong, so
Yes,
sideways.
yes, totally. But, I'm not for or like against them as a rule. If I'm a fan of it, then I'm usually just happy to have a different version that I can think about, whether or not I enjoy it.
Yeah, and I think Lauren was saying about having more people to talk about it,
Yeah.
like more people to be excited about that thing. So I think ultimately that's how I feel about it most of the time. Maybe some people will read the book and then I will have people to talk with. If not, we could talk about the show.
And then you get into like all the fun like drama of the casting choices too.
Totally. Absolutely. Yes. But I was gonna say, are they gonna make a movie of the Fourth Wing, you guys? What do you think? Is that happening?
I thought I heard whispers of an Amazon series.
I heard that same rumor.
Yeah, but I don't know anything about it.
I just love the voice is always the same. Everyone's very trepidatious. Like, I don't know.
I think Amazon bought the rights to do it, but I'm not sure. Yeah, no, that's how. Yeah, because I think you get a little precious over things that you really enjoyed as the book. But Fallon, I'm with you. Is like I think maybe I need to just like watch the movie or the TV show first so that I can enjoy both more.
Yes.
Instead of having this real like idea in my head from the book that then gets either smashed or held up enough that I'm satisfied.
The vision.
Yeah. All right. Thank you both for joining me, and thank you everyone for listening. Overdoing It is proud to be a resident partner of the Rhode Island Center for the Book and brought to you by library staff and community members all around the Ocean State. This project is funded in part by the Rhode Island Office for Library and Information Services. If you'd like to respond to our last chapter question or just reach out to the show, send an email to overdoingit@gmail.com, and that's overdoing like all the library books at my house right now. Or find us on Instagram at overdoingitpod. If you enjoyed today's episode, please rate and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify to help us reach more Rhode Islanders. Thank you for listening, and this has been another episode of Overdoing It, the Rhode Island Library Podcast. We're overdoing it, but you're doing just fine. I talked about it on the old show. Great thing about new show, everything I talked about before, can talk about it again.